The mystery of the key. It was a cold, rainy evening when Detective Rizzoli received an unexpected package at her doorstep. The box, wrapped in plain brown paper and tied with a fraying string, had no return address. Intrigued, she brought it inside, her instincts telling her this wasn't a random delivery. As she carefully opened the box, she found a small, rusty key lying atop a folded note. The key had intricate engravings, almost like symbols, and appeared centuries old. The note simply read, "Find the door that unlocks the truth." Rizzoli's mind raced. What truth? Whose door? She had no time to waste. She called her partner, Detective Oscar, a tech-savvy investigator with a knack for solving the unsolvable. Scene 1, the puzzle begins. Rizzoli placed the key on her desk as Oscar arrived. He leaned over, inspecting the object with curiosity. "This isn't just any key," Oscar said. "Look at the symbols. They're ancient, maybe alchemical?" Rizzoli frowned. "Alchemy? What does that have to do with a modern-day detective case?" Oscar grinned. "Everything, if you're chasing something bigger than the present." The two detectives worked through the night. Oscar scanned the key into his laptop, cross-referencing the symbols. Meanwhile, Rizzoli deciphered the note, which seemed to hint at an old location in the city, the abandoned Halstead Library. Scene 2, the forgotten library. The next morning, they arrived at Halstead Library, a massive, crumbling structure forgotten by time. Its towering, dusty shelves whispered of secrets long buried. The key, Rizzoli noted, seemed to vibrate faintly in her pocket, as if guiding her. Inside the library, they discovered an old wooden chest hidden beneath a pile of rotting books. To their surprise, the rusty key fit perfectly into its lock. Inside the chest lay a map, a journal, and a series of photographs. Each photo depicted the same location, a decrepit mansion on the city outskirts. The journal belonged to a man named Theodore Graves, an eccentric historian who vanished 20 years ago. The final entry in his journal read, "The key is only the beginning. The mansion holds what they seek, but beware the shadows." Scene 3, the Mansion of Shadows. The mansion loomed like a phantom against the gray sky. Its broken windows and ivy-covered walls told stories of abandonment, but as Rizzoli and Oscar approached, the front door creaked open, as if inviting them inside. The air inside was thick with dust and decay. The floorboards groaned under their weight as they explored. They found a room filled with strange artifacts, an alchemist's laboratory. Beakers, ancient tomes, and symbols etched into the walls hinted at experiments that defied the laws of nature. Suddenly, the sound of a faint whisper echoed through the room. Both detectives froze. "Did you hear that?" Oscar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Rizzoli nodded. "We're not alone." The whisper grew louder, transforming into a chilling laughter. The door slammed shut behind them, and the room plunged into darkness. A cold wind circled them, carrying the faint scent of sulfur. Scene 4, the revelation. Rizzoli fumbled for her flashlight, its beam slicing through the darkness. On the wall, the symbols began to glow, forming a sequence that matched those on the key. "It's a puzzle," Oscar said, stepping closer. "We need to match the key to the symbols." As they worked, the laughter turned into a low growl. Shadows on the wall seemed to move, taking on the shape of a figure with hollow eyes. "Faster, Oscar!" Rizzoli urged, her heart pounding. With a final click, the key symbols aligned with the glowing wall. A hidden door swung open, revealing a spiral staircase descending into the depths. The growling stopped. They descended cautiously, the air growing colder with each step. At the bottom, they found a chamber filled with gold coins, jewels, and strange artifacts. But the centerpiece of the room was a glass case containing an ancient book. The cover bore the same alchemical symbols as the key. Oscar reached out to open the case, but Rizzoli stopped him. "Wait. What if this is what the note warned about?" Scene 5, the choice. As they debated, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Theodore Graves, or what remained of him. His face was pale, his eyes sunken, and his voice a haunting whisper. "You should not have come," he said. "The book holds power beyond your comprehension." Those who seek it are consumed by it. But why the key? Why the map? Rizzoli demanded. Graves smiled faintly. A test. Only the worthy can unlock its secrets. But even the worthy must choose wisely. Rizzoli and Oscar exchanged a glance. The treasure glimmered temptingly, but the book seemed to call to them. Leave the book, Graves warned. Take only what does not tempt your soul. Rizzoli stepped forward, her hand brushing the glass case. She hesitated, then turned away. Let's go, Oscar. This isn't our fight. As they ascended the staircase, the chamber began to crumble. Graves' voice echoed after them, you chose well. The shadows will remember. Scene 6, The Aftermath. Back at their office, Rizzoli placed the key on her desk. We may never know what that book contained. Oscar nodded. But we know one thing, some mysteries are better left unsolved. The key remained on her desk, a silent reminder of the adventure they would never forget. And though the case was closed, the shadows of the mansion lingered in their dreams, whispering of truths they dared not uncover. The door is always open, for those brave enough to turn the key.
The body in the dead-end alley. The streets were empty as a cold drizzle fell from the overcast sky, wrapping the city in a somber gray hue. It was the kind of day that hinted at trouble, and trouble had arrived in the most horrifying form. A body discovered in a dead-end alley. Detective Emma Harper stood at the entrance of the cordoned-off area, her sharp eyes scanning the scene. Beside her, Detective Hector Morales adjusted his coat against the chill, his usual calm demeanor betraying a flicker of unease. Chapter 1. The Scene. The alley reeked of dampness and decay. The body lay sprawled on the ground, half hidden beneath a pile of discarded cardboard. It was a man in his late 30s, dressed in an expensive suit now stained with mud and blood. His lifeless eyes stared at the overcast sky, and a jagged wound across his throat told a gruesome story. "Cause of death is pretty clear," Emma muttered, kneeling beside the body. Her gloved hands carefully examined the man's pockets, pulling out a wallet. "Elliot Grayson," she read aloud. "Wealthy investment banker. Lives uptown. Doesn't look like a robbery," Hector noted, pointing to the untouched watch and cash in the wallet. "So why kill him and leave him here?" Emma stood, her sharp eyes narrowing as she scanned the alley. "This isn't random. Someone wanted him dead and wanted him found." Chapter 2. The First Clues. Back at the precinct, Emma and Hector pored over Elliot Grayson's background. He was successful, married, and had no criminal record. But digging deeper revealed cracks in the perfect facade. Grayson had been embroiled in several lawsuits, and had recently received death threats from disgruntled clients who lost money in risky investments. "That's a long list of enemies," Hector said, leaning back in his chair. "We've got angry clients, competitors, and maybe even personal enemies. Where do we start?" Emma tapped a pen against her desk. "Let's start with his wife." Chapter 3. The Widow's Secrets. Elliot's wife, Veronica Grayson, was a picture of grief when they arrived at the sprawling mansion. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was a tension in her demeanor that Emma couldn't ignore. "When was the last time you saw your husband?" Emma asked gently. "Last night," Veronica replied, her voice trembling. "He said he had a late meeting and wouldn't be home until after midnight." "Did he mention who the meeting was with?" Hector interjected. "No," she said, shaking her head. "But Elliot had been stressed lately. He said someone was threatening him, but he wouldn't tell me who." Emma exchanged a glance with Hector. Veronica's grief seemed genuine, but there was something she wasn't saying. The detectives thanked her and left, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Veronica knew more than she was letting on. Chapter 4. The Mysterious Meeting. The victim's phone records revealed a series of calls to an unknown number in the hours before his death. Tracing the number led them to a burner phone, but a witness near the alley provided a breakthrough. "I saw him," the man said, nervously glancing around. A black car pulled up, and the guy got out. He was arguing with someone in the car before he walked into the alley. Did you see who was in the car? Emma asked. The witness shook his head. It was too dark, but I heard the driver say, "This is your last chance." Chapter 5. Unveiling the Web. The investigation took a darker turn when the detectives uncovered a hidden side to Elliot's life. He had been laundering money for a criminal organization, using his investment firm as a front. The trail led to a notorious crime boss, Victor Delgado, whose name struck fear into even the most hardened officers. He was in over his head, Hector said grimly. And Delgado doesn't forgive mistakes. Emma nodded. But Delgado doesn't get his hands dirty. If he wanted Elliot dead, he would have sent someone else. Their theory was confirmed when a forensic analysis of the crime scene revealed traces of expensive perfume. It was the same fragrance Veronica Grayson had been wearing. Chapter 6. The Trap. Confronting Veronica was a delicate task. Emma and Hector invited her to the precinct, under the guise of needing more information. As they gently pressed her for details, her facade began to crack. "I loved Elliot," she said, her voice breaking. "But he lied to me. He lied about everything. Our finances, his job. I found out about the money laundering and the threats. He was going to drag me down with him." "Did you kill him?" Emma asked, her voice calm but firm. Tears streamed down Veronica's face. "No, I wanted to, but I couldn't. I hired someone to scare him, to make him stop. I didn't mean for him to die." Chapter 7. The Hitman. The man Veronica hired was a small-time thug named Marco Vega, who had ties to Delgado's organization. Tracking him down wasn't easy, but the detectives finally cornered him in a seedy motel on the outskirts of town. Marco confessed under pressure, revealing that he had been hired to intimidate Elliot. But when Elliot fought back, things escalated. "I panicked," Marco admitted. "I didn't mean to kill him, but Delgado would have killed me if I let Elliot go." Chapter 8. The Final Confrontation. With Marco in custody, the case seemed closed. But Emma wasn't convinced. Something about Delgado's involvement didn't add up. Why would he risk exposing his operation over one man? The answer came in the form of a confidential informant who revealed that Elliot had been planning to turn state's witness. He had gathered evidence against Delgado and was preparing to hand it over to the authorities. Delgado's men had intercepted the information, but the damage was done. Elliot's death was a message, not just to silence him, but to warn anyone else thinking of betraying Delgado. Chapter 9. Justice. Emma and Hector presented their findings to the district attorney, who authorized a full-scale operation against Delgado's organization. Over the next several weeks, the police dismantled the criminal network, piece by piece. Veronica Grayson was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, while Marco Vega faced a life sentence. As for Delgado, he disappeared, leaving behind only whispers of his name. Epilogue. The city slowly returned to normal, but the events of the case lingered in Emma's mind. Standing at the alley where it all began, she reflected on the choices that led to Elliot's death. "He wasn't innocent," Hector said, joining her. "But no one deserves to die like that." Emma nodded. "No, they don't. But sometimes, justice isn't about innocence. It's about accountability." As they walked away, the rain began to fall again, washing away the remnants of the past, but leaving its lessons etched in their hearts.